everyone. I am Rachel Boucher, Head of Content at Event Marketer. So excited to be digging into our second annual Watchlist program here. Watchlist features 24 brand side event marketers elevating events inside their companies and inside their marketing organizations. We put out a call for submissions earlier this fall looking for the change makers in the industry from any sector spanning B2B to B2C, and offered 8 categories acknowledging each nominee's superpower from strategic vision to rising stars and beyond. We received hundreds of submissions that we combed through to create this collective, and you can read all about the Watchlist honorees and their contributions and how they do what they do so well at eventmarketer.com/watchlist 2025. And I'll pop a link in the chat below. But today we're introducing you to a couple of our honorees to hear their stories and perspectives. I'm pleased to introduce Jessica Blake, Senior Director of Strategic Events at Salesforce, who was honored in the Visionaries category for seeing the future of events and living for bold ideas and thinking. Hey, Jessica.
Hello.
Thanks for being here. And Justin Tabas, Senior Experiential Marketing Manager at Bosch, honored in the Leader of Leaders category for managing and inspiring great teams. Justin, thanks for being here.
How you doing? Thank you.
And we have co-host Emily Daniels, Senior Producer at leading experiential agency Proscenium, our partner on Watchlist. Thank you, Proscenium and Emily. Hey, Emily.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
All right, so let's get into it. We're chatting behind the scenes for a moment about this year. It's a big one. Jessica and Justin, give us a highlight of the year so far from your seat. And Jessica, would you like to kick us off?
Love to.
Good.
Highlights for me was really getting to travel the globe. I run a roadshow type of event at Salesforce called the World Tours. And this year, we really focused on looking at what teams were doing across the globe with their world tours. And I got to dive in really with the idea of this is a templatized event, but we need to start looking at what everyone else is doing and stop being siloed and working together. And so I went around the globe meeting a ton of other event leaders that have never really worked with the America World Tour team before. And I'm on a crusade to bring them all together and where we can trade ideas. And it was really cool to see, what they're doing in Brazil and Australia and, how it's different from what we do in America or EMEA, where we are a little more closely connected.
Great. So we'll talk to you about travel hacks later based on that. And Justin, how about you?
So big year for Bosch. Our brand team pulled together a really cool, unique, and fun Super Bowl campaign that featured Macho Man Randy Savage and Antonio Banderas. And I was lucky enough to be the anchor of one of my events was the anchor of the launch and the kickoff of that campaign. That was really cool to kind of be that anchor and starting point and see that come to life. But honestly, something that maybe seems a little bit smaller that was really exciting and a highlight for me was at the end of last year, we did a VIP B2B event that featured a keynote and a meet and greet with World Series MVP Ben Zobrist from the World Series Cubs. And that event was awesome. But the thing that happened this year that really resonated with me and kind of was a proof point of how much we had formed some really strong connections, even with a celebrity like Ben Zobrist, was when he this year in the middle of the summer during Cubs season did kind of an unprompted post featuring Bosch and talking all these great things about Bosch just during the Cubs season, just on his own merit. And, we're sitting there saying, obviously we made an impact with this, this leader and the celebrity, and to see them kind of that impact that we made months prior still resonating with them enough that they think of us when they see us, and so much that they wanted to post it and share it with their thousands and thousands of fans. So that was really cool to see as well.
That's awesome. We talk a lot about influencer strategy evolving. We talked about it in October during Experiential Marketing Month, and that relationship building with these partners that you're working with that can go this extra mile that you're describing. That's great to hear, Justin. And Emily, what's a moment that stood out for you in the work?
Well, I think for me, overall, this year is really about momentum and collaboration, leaning into our team's strengths, operating full steam ahead effectively for projects that have had very little runway, watching as we have solved real time some very difficult challenges that inevitably pop up on a show site, and seeing the full cycle of an event from the early stages of conception and talking about creative to watching it being executed with all stakeholders from production, creative, and AV all being executed on site is a magic moment. I think in this industry, Jessica mentioned, we get to travel to some pretty incredible places. We get to stay and work in some pretty incredible venues. We get to dine at some pretty incredible restaurants. And none of that is something that I would want to take for granted, particularly this last year. I would say something even just as silly for me was exchanging family photos of our kids in Halloween costumes with Will Guidara because my son dressed up as a chef for Halloween. But having those opportunities and relationship building and team collaboration has been a highlight.
That's awesome. So what this is all about, right? It's like why we're doing it for that. Jessica, I want to turn back to you and the World Tour events, and that portfolio and some of the thinking that's going on around it. These kinds of one-day in-market experiences are on the rise across the industry. The World Tour, the road show, you name it. What are a couple of decisions or a few decisions, that your team has made that has worked really well when it comes to a tighter agenda and experience, like a tour program?
Yeah. Well, it's so wonderful to be able to bring the company messaging to everyone in their local area, right? And in order to do a road show, which most people have tried and done, you have to have some sort of template of what it's going to look like, what the agenda is going to look like, and have it be a little bit cookie cutter so that you can do it repeatable. But what we really like to do is look at, okay, how do we make that agenda interesting year over year and meet the people where they are? If we're bringing it to them, it's not that easy to get them to come, even when it's a free event, to get them to walk away from their offices or their home offices. So looking at localization, and even if it's the same basic schedule, what's the content that we're bringing? And if we're in New York, is there a FinServes angle to it? In Chicago, manufacturing, it's how do we look at the localization for each city we're going to, and really meeting the people who they are and what's the top markets in those cities and what's really going to make sense to them of why they should leave their work and come spend the day with us. So really focusing on that template approach, but what's going to work in the market that you're in. And that goes globally as well. We do events in Paris and London as well. And like I said, globally, looking at what everyone's doing, it's the same exact agenda, but the content is totally different. The customers that we're going to bring and show real life use cases are going to be very different in each market. And so really focusing on that. And it's exciting because it makes it so that we're not ever bored. We're not just doing the same roadshow pick and repeat, right? It's always different. How do we make it, really stretch and really get the new people in the door and also feed the people who maybe came last year? And what's the brand new thing we're going to show them this year?
Yeah, that's fantastic. And Justin, Bosch is going all in on experiential in a few different spaces. Can you walk us through that strategy, how it's impacted engagement and the program moving forward, and especially how experiential is coming into play in sort of the trade show space on the B2B side for the brand, if you can speak to that?
Yeah, for sure. So, in my opinion, experiential marketing is kind of uniquely positioned to, maximize these deeper emotional connections with the audience. You have the ability to leverage all of the senses, and no other marketing space has that same ability. And so what we are trying to do is trigger those deeper emotional connections. And how do you do that? You need to, first of all, know that audience very deeply. What makes them tick? What some of the stuff that Jessica was talking about, and what's the local vibe, and what are people into, and what are people's lifestyles like, and really leaning into the lifestyle. We go to trade shows, and sometimes it can be a sterile or maybe stale environment, but these are all real humans that have real interests and passion points and things like that. And how can you know your audience more deeply and then deliver on some of these passion points that might not feel like a sale as much, might not feel like I'm trying to get you to spin a prize wheel in order to get a prize or something, but it's deeper than that, because we know what you're into, and we're taking a look at the why people go to trade shows. And particularly, we have pretty big trade shows that we do across the country, a major one that's out in Las Vegas. And what we found through some research and also through surveying audiences is that these folks they're going to find out about the new products, and they're going to network, and but they're also going because it's Vegas, and it's a fun workcation for them. And a lot of times their bosses and their teams are sending them because it's a reward. And so we want to bring that workation and that fun and that lifestyle angle to our trade show, because that's what people are looking for out of their experience with the trade show. And it also allows us to kind of quickly stand out as well, because not everybody else is doing that. And so, we found some success in really tuning into what the audience wants beyond just out of your product, and providing that for them in a space that's tied back to the product, tied back, because ultimately the experience is tied back to the brand. And, we are integrating our brand into these experiences. And I think that that's really resonated, and we're forming deeper emotional connections. We're, leveraging all of the senses and feeding people and having drinks for them and giving them cool music and visuals and things like that, along with putting our products into their hands.
Yeah. Jessica, you mentioned what is driving people to, come to an event today, and that tapping into that local flavor and whatever's going on. And then to your point, Justin, there is a human element you have to think about, and what's going to entertain them or engage them as humans and not just business people, is an interesting consideration. Yeah. Yeah. So budgets are typically flat overall. We don't do a lot of stories on what to do when you get more budget, right? How are you providing additional value to your audiences? How do you keep building momentum, leveling up, experimenting when you're not necessarily getting that additional funding, in your line items, at least, to do that? I don't know who'd like to kick us off.
Go ahead, Jessica.
No, I was going to say you go. I've gone first the whole time.
Okay. I think, look, we are meticulous about making sure that we're viewing, after action meetings and things like that to identify what worked well, and what didn't work well. And certainly we're trying to fix things that didn't work well and improve things. And that's the purpose of that didn't work well. But also part of this is the idea that you don't need to reinvent the wheel unnecessarily. And if something's working, go do it again. Actually, guess what happened? Next time you do that again, it got easier and more cost efficient and more time efficient. So don't feel like, a lot of times we're in this a lot of internal communications, and this is the third time that our team has activated this or done this experience in a similar way. But and we're ready for a change, but that's not the audience. It's what does the audience need? Does the audience love this? And let's continue to leverage that opportunity. And maybe the audience tells somebody else about it, and they bring some new people into it the next year, and they experience it again. So there is cost efficiency over time with things. Don't feel like you have to just reinvent the wheel unnecessarily. If it's not broke, you don't have to fix it. And obviously, you get economies of scale as you use things time over again and again, for multiple years. And I also would say, think about your new investments with the same mentality. Can I use this for multiple years? Because you will certainly see your savings in year 2 and year 3. The difference between renting or, paying somebody to do it versus doing it yourself, starts to really pay off as you find this best practice that develops into something year over year that you're doing. The efficiencies increase. So I think that that's one thing that I would say in general. And being able to take all of that and still find little cost efficient or time efficient tweaks to make it seem fresh, but maybe the core and the anchor of what's happening there is still the same concept. Those are other little tips and tricks to kind of continue to maintain and save budget and time in a flat budget world.
Excellent. Jessica, does that resonate with you, especially with some of the work you're doing to sort of optimize the World Tour program, for example?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's a lot of repeatable things and using the same structures year over year, even if you have to reskin them, all of that great stuff really helps with the year over year and repeatable. And if it works, keep doing it. What I'm finding though, as we are all doing planning for next year, I'm sure right now, we're in the thick of it. And it's not just flat budgets, it's flat budgets. And then there's inflation, and the venue costs alone, we're finding they are rising. Food costs are rising. We've all heard this before, but it's hard because it's not a flat budget. Then you have to make cuts, right? So that's where it gets really hard and challenging. So it's really looking line by line at what we have that goes into each event and where can we cut that's not going to let us lose the magic, right? And we don't want our attendees to know that we had to cut things. So is there small things here that maybe we haven't been efficient because we have been doing the same thing year over year? So it's actually studying everything you've been doing year over year, and can we be doing this better? Last year we found that we hadn't been reusing carpets. And oh my gosh, we saved a lot of money when we realized we can roll these carpets up and just vacuum them and cut out the bad parts and keep using them till they're falling apart, right? Not only is that great for sustainability, but it saved us a lot of money. So looking at things like that. Another huge thing we did, as I said earlier, content is king. We all know that. We have content all over our event. One of the things we have always done for a long time is the silent disco headsets that we rent, and then we have to have someone to clean off each one. And so we have our technology team who found an option for live session audio where it's cheaper for us. People can connect on their own phone, their own headphones, and we're also able to provide the content to more people in the event. So it was a win-win all around, but it also saved us money. So really looking at every single thing you've always done and saying, how can we do this different? And maybe we need to do it cheaper. So that works for us.
Yeah, Justin.
And I'll just piggyback on that because you made me think of something when you're talking about content in a different way. Some of the things that we've done is seeking more synergies internally across departments, where we recognize that the brand content team is looking to capture content. And they have a whole set of budgets that they're maybe going out and setting up individual kind of content scenarios to cover off on those. And we're getting them involved in the planning concept of our events, where we already have maybe demos and structures and things like that already set up, so that as opposed to them needing all of that budget to kind of set it up, I'm getting it set up for the event, pulling them into the mix. And now collectively as a marketing department, we found, space and additional efficiencies and synergies that have given us more dollars to the marketing department. And you hope that, hey, I helped us save that money. Can you kind of feed some of that back into our event or experiences budget? So finding synergies across departments as well has been effective to help show that, look, we are being more efficient. We're wanting to be more efficient. And if there's extra dollars, let's kind of pool them or find ways that they can kind of benefit us back when we're in a flat or inflation situation.
Absolutely. And Emily, does this, resonate with you? And from like the partner perspective, how are you advising clients on, creating that value in this kind of budget climate?
Of course, it definitely resonates with me, both what Justin and Jessica have said. I think anything that I would share is piggybacking on what they have already shared. But as a producer, I think a lot about tightening timelines being strategic with the time that we have, and bringing all of the decision making forward, aligning all the stakeholders early so you can reduce the number of unnecessary revisions that are inevitable down the road. Leveraging existing assets. This has been something that both Justin and Jessica mentioned, but repurposing existing scenic, recycling carpet, something we have found, purchasing chairs instead of renting, finding ways, like Justin mentioned, to make content and creative work harder across multiple touch points, print, digital, finding ways to consolidate our AV or creative partners early so we can have shared efficiencies. And at the end of the day, I would also say that for value isn't just created by cost savings. I think it's created by alignment. Our teams that communicate clear, moving forward, taking advantage of the momentum, and really leaning into commitment, clarity, and trust in your team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love that.
And then finally, a question for all of you on 2026. Biggest shifts that you're anticipating, interesting or new challenges ahead. What's on the minds of you and your teams? And Emily, I'll throw it back to you, and then we'll make our way around.
The pressure. Honestly, what comes to mind, I think something that has come up on several conversations or asks or things in which we're asked to think creatively out of the box, but on budget, is how do we leverage AI? The question around AI has been the theme of the year. So moving into next year is really exploring new and engaging ways to explore AI.
Yeah. Jessica, how about you?
I would agree with that. That is on everyone's mind, and looking at ways to cut budgets by using AI. We're pushing on our agencies to do that. But the other thing I would say that is coming up a lot in our planning for next year is hybrid is back, which I never thought I would say that. And, you know, at least it's not totally virtual with the COVID PTSD that we still all have. But I do know that we are leaning into looking at ways of how do we augment when people don't get travel budgets, when people can't get away from the office, how do we stream? How do we provide things for a hybrid audience?
Yeah. Who knew? All right, Justin.
Yeah, from an audience shift standpoint, you know, I think obviously there's now more clutter and competition and noise than ever before. It breeds the necessity to find a way to stand out. Actually, interestingly enough, in the kind of same vein as the desire for some AI, what that also, I think, creates is a little bit of like scarcity or desire for more authenticity and in real life and some of the elements that are just more real people. And so finding ways, a little bit like I had mentioned before, finding ways to be more authentic, to be more, you know, deeply connected, and be more human in the equation, I think is huge opportunity. And I think overall, the audiences are smarter. They're getting smarter. They know more when they're trying to get sold. They know more when you're just trying to grab a lead from them or something like that. And so, you know, being more transparent, being more authentic, being more real about it, I think is a place where companies brands can stand out and make a little bit more of those authentic connections, because they are going to be bombarded with marketing and AI and have that question in their head. Am I talking to a person that actually cares about me, or is this a machine? And so I think that some of that growth actually creates a little bit more of an opportunity for that true and core authenticity and genuine approach to marketing.
Fantastic. Great. Good problems to have moving forward, seeking out efficiencies and connecting better with our audiences, being more transparent with our audiences. I love that. And I'm going to let you guys get back to it. Big congratulations again to Jessica and to Justin. And all of our watch listers. And thank you to Proscenium. And we're going to drop a link to the full watch list here. We also will have it. We have it up on our homepage as well on eventmarketer.com. So cheers, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.